Dart Zone designed their very first pump-action Springer-powered minigun, and I got a few thoughts about it. Don't forget, we got a giveaway going on right now. As soon as we reach 8,000 subscribers, we're gonna be picking 5 winners to win a Pro Blaster from Dart Zone. More details are gonna be in this video right here. I'll leave a link down in the description. Make sure you click on that so you don't miss your chance to enter. Miniguns are nothing new to Nerf. We have had different varieties, different styles with different power systems over the years. But one thing they've all had in common is that the spinning barrel is just a gimmick. I mean, who doesn't like a Gatling gun? Dating back to the late 90s, it was hard to find an action movie that did not have one of these beasts of a weapon, which caused us to instantly fall in love with the aesthetic. It would only be a matter of time before the foam flinging hobby and its toy manufacturers adopted this design for their blasters. Even though we have had many offerings of this kind of design in the form of an electric flywheel powered blasters, it wasn't until X-Shot designed the Crusher in 2020 that we got our first spring powered minigun. And it was a damn pretty good design too. The way that you can actually hold the trigger down and just slam fire rounds while the barrel spins, it just added an emotional connection to the blaster that very few other blasters, even motorized ones, I'd argue, were able to do. They produced 2 models with this kind of mechanism, the Crusher and the Omega, which had some subtle differences, but they pretty much did the same thing. A big crank on the top of the blaster would prime the plunger. The trigger would release the catch that would send a dart flying through the very center of the spinning Gatling barrel, creating a spin motion with every shot that would add to the overall firing experience. Maybe other aftermarket companies have created such a design. I personally reviewed a Fast Shot blasters not too long ago that had this kind of mechanism, but it was more of a drum design. Interestingly enough, Dart Zone has had their own fair share of miniguns and some really nice ones too, but until now, they had not come up with anything spring powered. This year, however, everything changed. I introduce you to the Adventure Force Lancer. The Lancer brings spring powered to a minigun for the first time in the Primetime Toys line of products. In this case, the Lancer is an Adventure Force product exclusively sold at Walmart. What I like about this is that it brings a new kind of loading style to the table, but we're gonna get into that later in the video. For now, let's get to the unboxing. We'll do a quick overview and a firing test, and then I'm gonna give you my final thoughts. Let's get into it, guys. All right, guys, pretty open and revealing packaging here. Pretty much have the blaster in the flesh. In fact, this little sticker here confirms that you can even operate this blaster and see if it fits your ergonomic style and comfort right off the shelf. Something that a couple of other companies have tried in the past. It definitely works for blasters at this price point. Right off the bat, they're letting you know that the blaster is capable of slam fire, 80 feet distance, 10 darts included, which are in this box here. Something they pointed out in the podcast, and I think it's pretty important, is that once you remove these 2 zip ties and you get the blaster out of the packaging, don't discard the box because your darts are in there. Other than that, just your standard spring powered Gatling gun with some sci-fi features. A little bit of an electrical mechanical looking mold right here with this triple gearing Lancer badge here on what otherwise looks just like a motor slash generator unit from a Gatling gun. A couple of sci-fi features. I really like it. Gonna get this out of the box, check out some of the features, and then take it to the range and see what she can do. Let's get into it, guys. All right, guys, snapping those 2 little zip ties gets our blaster nice and free. Now, this is a very compact minigun. When you compare it to something like the X-Shot Crusher, its spring-powered rival, it's a lot more mini than that minigun. It introduces somewhat of a new minigun niche. It also has a loading feature that is not conventionally used for blasters like this, and we'll get into that during our main overview. But for now, you can see that it has a freely rotating 10 dart blaster, which you front load from here, and the main firing vent is located on the bottom. So as opposed to conventional and even real life military and industrial products where the top barrel is the one that fires, on this model, it's the bottom. The The very bottom of the barrel is where the firing vent is located. The unit rotates counterclockwise every time you pull this handle and gets the next shot ready to go. Normally, something like this would have some kind of either a hopper or a chain, such as the X-Shot Crusher. This unit has all the darts put into the front, kind of like a glorified revolver, if you will. Anyways, enough of that. To the range, and let's see what she could do. So before we get to the range, for scale purposes, I just wanted you to see the difference between the Lancer and the Scorpion, one of their more famous, smaller, compact form factor electric miniguns. This one's actually on clearance at some Walmarts for $9.99, which is like 1/3 of the original price. If any of you guys are interested in checking it out, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, especially for little HVZ skirmishes inside a building. As you can see, they're very similar in size and aesthetic as well. Now, this extremely compact form factor, like I just said, is great for indoor battles. You don't have to hunk around this gigantic Gatling gun. You can fire it using the slam fire system, as with the X-Shot blasters, or you can fire it conventionally by cranking the blaster and using the trigger to fire it. What I like about this blaster is that it truly takes advantage of the full aesthetic of what a Gatling gun is. As you were able to see in the frames earlier, it fires from the bottom barrel, but it does rotate to put the dart in the position of that bottom firing vent, as I was explaining during the unboxing. So even though they're trading capacity for this authentic feature, I think the cool factor is going to take the win in this instance. Very easy to use. The prime is very, very smooth. It has an air restrictor system in it that until I open it, I won't know exactly how it works, but what I could tell you is that you could dry fire and it has that cushiony sound where the plunger is not slamming into the front wall of the cylinder. It's kind of like easing off as it gets close, like the old Nerf blasters used to do with their air restrictor, but it doesn't seem to affect FPS. Getting 90s out of a toy blaster is pretty crazy. I can only imagine what this will do if the air restrictor systems are removed with maybe a padded plunger to compensate. I'm definitely going to look into a couple of these mods and update you guys on what's exactly possible here. But I'm liking the aesthetic. I like the fact that the barrel does spin every time you prime it and shoot it. It's a very simple mechanism. I can't picture it being that complicated. And I also like that they went with the crank and trigger. It's not a slam fire exclusive blaster like some of the ones they've done before. I think the Legend Fire is one of them. I like having that trigger, so I appreciate the way that this was designed. For my big hands, it actually fits good back here. My fingers don't feel cramped back here, and at the same time, I feel like it would accommodate the hands of an 8-year-old just fine. So versatility through different ages is something that this blaster definitely brings to the table. It has a nice little dart zone sized Picatinny rail here on the top, so you can include any of the optics that you want to use, whether it's from another dart zone blaster. Sling mount on the back of the blaster and a sling mount on the front of the blaster. For you Terminator fans, you have your sling points, so you can do your little minigun rig and loadout as you may see fit. That's gonna wrap it up for the overview. Let's throw some shots down the chronograph, and then I'm gonna give you my final thoughts. Let's get into it, guys. So this blaster doesn't really have iron sights or any kind of aiming system. So that's why I kind of omitted the accuracy test, because mostly this blaster will fill a suppressive fire role. In a Nerf battle, you'd be just frantically firing this thing off to stave off any kind of zombie attack. For what it's worth, I did fire it at the target, holding it as steady as I could, and I can tell you it is very accurate. The shots were hitting in the same 10-inch circle from 25 feet. So that's actually pretty good, because when you combine it with those 90 FPS, if you end up putting a nice optic, this can actually make a nice little primary secondary kind of carbine unit. You can explore multiple roles with that. Ultimately, I think what Dart Zone was trying to achieve by sacrificing capacity for the authentic chain gun feel, combined with a small form factor, smooth priming, smooth trigger, easy to use, very generous power and accuracy for what is otherwise the toy line of Dart Zone blasters at Walmart, which is just the normal Adventure Force, not Tactical Strike. I'd say this is a very good value for $14.97, which is what this is going for now. You should start seeing them pop up at your local Walmart from now until the end of August. Definitely gets a recommendation from me, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments.